It's a bad thing to become an enemy of your house gnome. It's no easy task to get rid of a spiteful tomta. These gnomes were curiously discovered among some neglected Christmas items in an old tobacco shop in Stockholm, Sweden around 1960. It is believed that these four gnomes were caught by a witch in the 1700s named Svarte Mor Ronquist. The story goes that she caught one of them stealing from her, so she captured it and held it captive, but she didn't know that when you mess with one, you mess with them all. Lore states that if there's a gnome in your house, you do not want to end up taking its life, because if you do, there will be hell to pay. Almost magical little creatures, they are slight and swift, and masters at hiding. The mythology on gnomes spans the world, from Mexico all the way to Europe. And oddly enough, they all generally say the same thing. There are 3 types of duendes, and that you don't want to get on their bad side. Is it possible that Tesla is still alive and that he currently resides in Agartha among the inner earth beings? According to theorists, Agarthans observed Tesla and his humanitarian ways throughout the entirety of his life. And when they saw him attempting to use his inventions for the greater good of the people by providing things like free energy and using his direct energy technology in an effort to create world peace, it did not go unnoticed. Though they didn't come to fruition, because he showed these selfless acts of kindness towards humanity and didn't care to make any profits, the Agarthans deemed him worthy to be a part of their world. So on January 7th, 1943, Tesla's in his hotel room when he hears a knock at the door. He answers it, and there to greet him are 2 beings from inner earth. They introduce themselves, then humbly offer him a place among them in Agartha. He accepts, they escort him to a submarine, then they travel to inner earth through the ocean. It's said when in Agartha, you literally do not age. He's alive and well, still inventing to this day. This mural depicting a giant carrying 2 elephants was found in one of the pyramids of Nubia, sometimes referred to as the pyramids of Meroe. Meroe is the historical capital of the Kingdom of Kush. This is where the antique mural of the giant was found, in the burial chambers in one of these pyramids. This set of 50 sandstone and red brick pyramids are marvels of ancient architecture, the remnants of an ancient civilization dating back to 2500 BC, a civilization that once thrived in the backyard of modern-day Sudan. The adornments and cuneiform writing all throughout these structures show of a people that had a historical global reach. But this old fresco, depicting a giant of colossal dimensions carrying 2 elephants, has specialists buzzing. Theorists claim that this is without a doubt proof that red and white giants once roamed this earth. Could he be the last of an ancient Atlantean civilization that averaged 15 feet tall? What do you think? Comment below. Recently, a woman shared this picture along with many others on her social media platform. And when asked what they were, she told them they were something she felt the world should know about, and that she harnessed the skills needed to spot them around her in everyday life while working for the CIA on Project Gateway. There was recently an interesting declassified CIA document. It surrounds the training of psychic soldiers and enhancements to the brain known as the Gateway Process Experience Experiments. The document showed a written letter between one of the heads of the experiment and a U.S. government high-ranking official. They spoke of the analysis of the experiment. Most likely, the U.S. government didn't know exactly what was going on with them, so they would send an agent in undercover to go through the process to make sure it was worth the funding or not. The overall analysis stated that our brains vibe at a certain frequency, but we're only using one side of it. If we could get the other to vibe at the same frequency, we can have a hyper focus. That's why this lady can spot the fairies and others can't, but we can gain the knowledge, because there's more around us than we ever knew. During a brutal study done at Harvard University in the 1950s, Dr. Richter put rats in a pool of water to see how long they could actually tread the water. On average, the rats would give up after about 15 minutes of swimming. But right before they sank, the professor would pluck them out of the water, dry them off, and let them rest for about 10 minutes. Then he'd put them back in the water for a second round. How long do you think they lasted this time? Now keep in mind, they're already exhausted. On average, people thought 10, 15 minutes they might last. Try 60 hours. And no, that's not an error. They would last another 60 hours treading water. The conclusion was drawn that after they plucked them out of the water the first time, it gave the rats hope. They were able to push themselves much further than they ever thought they were capable of. I want to leave you with this thought. If a little hope can push rats to swim that long, what can it do for you? Remember what you're capable of, and always keep swimming. If an alien located 65 million light years away from us looked at Earth through a really powerful telescope today, he would see dinosaurs. A Florida resident named Christina Ryan claims she's caught a baby dinosaur on film in her backyard. What do you think, Titkok? The Grand Experiment and the Secret Space Program. The Grand Experiment started over 65 million years ago with the extinction of the dinosaurs, who happened to be the first experimental species put here by ETs. But after almost 200 million years of roaming the Earth, the aliens came up with a newer species. This is when they would arrange the extinction event that took them out, and they would replace them with a humanoid-like creature that walked on 2 feet and was genetically manipulated to be a higher level thinking species. This would become known to our government as the Grand Experiment, and they've been manipulating our genetic makeup and our DNA since. After watching cavemen for millions of years, they wanted to jumpstart the program. So just 500,000 years ago, they set down 60 other genetically manipulated races that had gained access to the extraterrestrial world. They would come up with 22 genetic programs revolving around humans, and each of them would take part in it. Whether these programs are positive or negative has yet to be figured out. Many believe they're here to help a spiritual awakening, while the secret space program ran by the Cabal says different. Part 2. You will own nothing and be happy about it. That's just one of the many goals of the Great Reset, and it's happening now. The Great Reset has been the title and theme of the World Economic Forum's annual meeting in Switzerland for the last 2 years. Klaus Schwab, the founder and CEO, was quoted as saying, "The pandemic represents a rare but narrow window of opportunity to reset our world." Anyone else find it funny that the WEF headquarters are in Switzerland? That's because the group is comprised of only the rich and powerful, from politicians to entrepreneurs. You might call it the New World Order. Their goal is global domination. And how are they planning on doing all of this? Well, it started last year. Their next step? Displace billions and blame global climate change. And if you don't think they're capable, look up Project SEAL and the tsunami bomb. During World War II, the US found they could create massive waves. They teamed up with New Zealand and did studies, finding that 4 million pounds of explosives could create a tsunami.
What's a conspiracy theory that absolutely blows your mind?
Alright, dig this. After the Roswell crash of 1947, the US military confiscated remains of a UFO plus 1 living and 3 dead ETs. They would end up calling him EBE-1, or Extraterrestrial Biological Entity 1. He was friendly and very calm, and only could communicate using tonal sounds, which Americans could never understand or speak. But it is said that it was very intelligent. He picked up English very fast and could understand it. It informed its new keepers, us, that it was from a planet called Serpo, that it was about 40 light years away, and it was part of the Zeta Reticuli system. EBE-1 would work to fix his salvage communication system and try to contact home 6 times, to no avail. And sadly, he passed away in 1952, never contacting home. But eventually we got the system working, contacted his home planet, they came here, and we established Project Serpo.
An epiphany right now, and I don't want to sound crazy, but I'm gonna go through this super quick, try and follow. So you remember that movie Avatar, where you have to switch bodies into an avatar body in order to communicate with the people of that planet? Now, we always question if there's extraterrestrial life. Now, Jesus himself told the Roman government, "I am not of this world." And also, when they were getting him sentenced to death, he told them, "If we were from where I'm from, my servants will be fighting my arrest." So that only means not only is he from another place, but he's a king where he's from, right? Now, in terms of extraterrestrial life, if we were to go to Mars, we would have to get into a Martian body or put on a suit on the exterior of our body in order to live there. So Jesus takes on a human body to where he can communicate with us. Now, where he's from, they are so advanced that they've even beaten death. That's why he sacrifices himself. He allows himself to get killed by the Roman government, so that way he can show to us, hey, look, where I'm from, even death itself cannot defeat us. He also tells us he wants us to come with him. He's preparing a place for us, heaven, right? A whole nother place that we've never been to. So, in terms of extraterrestrial life does exist, and it exists in the form of Jesus Christ, and he came to try and tell us, hey, look, I want to bring you to this beautiful place, so just...
This is the legend of the Philadelphia experiment, the US government's attempt during World War II to make an entire ship disappear. Theorists say that disturbing things happened to the sailors on board. According to witnesses, on October 28, 1943, the USS Eldridge, a Cannon-class destroyer, was being used for top-secret experiments that could change the tides of the war. The rumor was the US government had come up with a cloaking technology that could render any ship invisible to radar. And in the Philadelphia shipyard that day, it was time to test it out. Witnesses say as the Eldridge powered up, an eerie green energy field surrounded the ship, and then it disappeared. The ship was then spotted in a Virginia shipyard and then teleported back to Philadelphia. Some went insane, and some got a mysterious illness. But worst of all, some of the sailors were said to have gotten fused to the ship. Many of them still alive as they were cutting them free. For more on the story, check part 2. Massive pyramid found in the Atlantic off San Miguel Island. Look it. Right here in the middle. Right there, that large structure underwater. But I want you to know something. Look at around it. Pyramid, pyramid, pyramid. Look at this massive pyramid. You can tell by the way they peek in the water. They're covered in sand. They look round, but they're not. They're pyramids. If you look closely, they're all over. Pyramid, pyramid, pyramid. This land was once full, pyramid, of pyramids, you guys. What happened is the cataclysm sunk everything. Pyramid. You can find them all over the ocean floor, all over. And you notice if you zoom in close, they're blurred out. Our land masses were much more massive than we ever believed. All through there, pyramids. Pyramids everywhere, you guys. San Miguel Island is off the coast of Portugal in the Atlantic. Many believe that these pyramids could represent Atlantis. Follow for more. Google Earth, that will blow your mind. Look at the light blue around each coast. The Gulf, then it runs all the way up the coast of the United States. All these islands right here, notice how all those islands are light blue. That's because it's shallow there. Well, I believe that was once our landmass before Noah's flood. Up the entire coast. You can see up the entire coast. All was once above water and was a landmass. You can see the sheer drop-offs. Where the rivers once flowed. You can see the riverbeds up here. This was all once above water, you guys. This was our landmass prior to Noah's flood. There's all the riverbeds flowing into the ocean. Now, was it meteors or was it nukes? The Hudson Bay is said to be a meteor impression. A massive meteor. Even as small as Saginaw Bay. Look at the round. Google Earth, that'll blow your mind part 2. Look at all the light blue. They were even connected. You could even pass from one hemisphere to another by land. Australia, China, all surrounded by light blue. Our landmass was much greater than we ever believed at one time. New Zealand, look how big New Zealand was. You guys, they have to know this already. They have to know this. Take note of the ice. See the ice? Greenland, Antarctica? That's all the ice we have on this earth. I hate to say it, but whatever caused the cataclysms and caused the ice age, the ice has been melting the entire time. I find it hard to believe that if Antarctica melts all of its ice and Greenland melts all of its ice, you're telling me it's going to raise all the oceans 100 feet? Nah. Look how much water we have, you guys. That was all from ice. We will be just fine.
What's a conspiracy theory that absolutely blows your mind?
Alright, what if I told you that there's a 12th planet that rotates into our solar system every 3,600 years? And that almost 500,000 years ago, as Nibiru passed by Earth, an ancient alien faction known as the Anunnaki jumped planets due to Nibiru's atmosphere deteriorating. This was the result of a nuclear war. As soon as the Anunnaki got to Earth, they realized it was rich in minerals and gold. So they quickly established large gold mines, mainly in South Africa. What the Anunnaki were hoping was that they could use the gold to replenish the atmosphere on Nibiru so they can make it habitable again. Notice the serpent. At first, the Anunnaki would use another ancient alien race known as the Igigi as slaves. Anunnaki holding the bag. Eventually, they would grow tired of this and revolt though, breaking off from the Anunnaki. They were Lemurian Atlantean.
My name's Daniel, and this is my video.
What is that bizarre sound?
I thought at first that maybe there was a woman that was in danger because it kind of sounded like a woman screaming.
What is that?
I never heard anything like it before.
What the is that? That sounds so scary.
It blew me away. It raised the hair on the back of my neck. It was very eerie. From my estimation, it was in the same area as the jets were flying earlier that morning. It was in the exact same spot at the exact same height in the sky.
Right there. There's something dark in the sky.
I don't know what this is, but it's terrifying. Now, this looks like...
So a while back, my buddy came over and he had one of these crystals. He said he found it in Lake Michigan and that it gives him good luck, it gives him good aura. Well, this fascinated me, so I decided to look it up. It ended up me being up half the night reading about an ancient civilization that used these crystals to store information. They were a civilization of higher beings known as the Lemurians. In 1864, Philip Sclater hypothesized that since he found lemurs in India and Madagascar, that there must have been a landmass in the Indian Ocean. This was called Lemuria or Mu. Mu means Mother Earth. While some experts believe that actually Lemuria existed in the Pacific Ocean, it's up for debate. It is believed that the Lemurians were one of the first civilizations to set foot on Earth, and their technology was much more advanced than anything we have now. So these crystals, known as the Lemurian sea crystal, were actually produced by these Lemurian beings. Lemurians were considered beings of pure love and light, and they vibrate at the highest frequency. Keepers of Earth, like and follow. This footprint is over 200 million years old. They believe it's over 200 million years old because the print is in Permian rock. The Permian period is when dinosaurs roamed the Earth. The Zapata footprint was found in New Mexico years ago. A hunter stumbled upon it and told his friend Don Shockey about it. He had knowledge of anthropology and archaeology. When they went to excavate it, it should have been an easy job. They got the permits, but when they showed up to the site, a landowner who was armed told them they were trespassing and told them they couldn't touch anything. And even though they showed the landowner the permits, he wouldn't budge. And he proceeded to tell them that he had found many other footprints like it. They verified its authenticity by the way the footprint pushes the mud up and out. That's something that is very hard to mimic. So were we really on the Earth 200 million years ago? Did people really exist back then? Or was it a bipedal humanoid of some other type? Secure, contain, protect. That's what the SCP Foundation stands for. It's claimed to be a fictional foundation, but could it be real? Decide for yourself. At the end of this video, I'll give you a number you can call that supposedly connects you with an agent. In essence, the SCP Foundation is a secret organization that protects the public from paranormal or supernatural anomalies. It's said they work with and are backed by governments all over the world. So naturally, they have facilities globally. That if their employees leak any of this information, they're subject to prison time or they may even disappear. They protect the people from supernatural entities like Slender Man and the Wendigo. But their first goal is to capture it so they can take it to their underground labs and run studies. So could it be real? Many people say why not? Because of organizations like the Men in Black? Or what about the Manhattan Project, when 100,000 people were sworn to secrecy and never said a word? Check part 2 where I call the phone number. The new $100 bill shows a tsunami hitting New York. If you look closely, you can see the 2 smoke trails from the nukes landing in the ocean, then blowing up. You can even see the buildings being taken out by the water. The video on the left is predictive programming from a movie, The Day After Tomorrow, shot in 2004. When folded properly, you can alternate the magnification and pick up the sequence. And if you flip it over, it even has a nuke making impact. You can see the shape of the nuke and the firebomb behind it, when again fluctuating the magnification. So basically, the $100 bill is depicting a nuke being fired in the ocean and then a tidal wave hitting New York. Look up the declassified documents for Project SEAL World War II. Now you gotta check my YouTube.
You go to the Southwest desert and catch 100 red fire ants and 100 large black ants and put them all into a jar. At first, nothing will happen. But if you violently shake the jar and then dump the ants back on the ground, the ants will all fight until they kill each other. The thing is, the red ants think the black ants are the enemy and vice versa. But in reality, the person who shook the jar is the enemy. And that's exactly what's happening in society today. Conservative versus liberal, black versus white, pro-mask versus anti-mask. We are not the enemy. The question we need to ask ourselves is who's shaking the jar and why. Now share this to somebody who needs to know the truth.